Institutes for Drug Abuse?
Well, I'll speak even broader than that. I'll speak National Institutes of Health. So I've been here at the University of Utah since the early 80s, and had an opportunity in the year 2000 to go back to the National Institute on Drug Abuse and serve as the director of one of their divisions. And while I was there, the institute director stepped down and they asked me to assume the director's role. And then I came back here afterwards because I found this, it's a lot more fun to spend money than it is to give everybody else money. So, but I did have a chance to take a look at the inner operations of NIH, and it looks quite different from the inside than it does from the outside. One of the things about NIH that makes it very appealing is that it's got a $30 billion plus budget every year. So it's one of the richer agencies in which you can apply for money, and that money is typically very flexible. There's a lot of opportunity to do creative things, although as you submit a grant, you're certainly expected to do the specific aims that are included in that grant. But you're also expected to do other things that allow you to use your creativity, use your perspective, and move the science forward in that process. NIH has got a number of institutes and centers, and they function in a very siloed manner, which makes it somewhat frustrating to try to deal with this. When I was back there, they had just appointed a new director, a man by the name of Elias Zerhouni. And Elias brought with him a very different perspective of how NIH should operate. He thought that institutes should be working together rather than functioning individually and fighting for budgets, that they should actually look at ways to leverage budgets. And there is so much overlap if you think about the various institutes, because NIH is about biomedical science and development. And it's hard to get sick in just one little piece of the body and not affect the other parts of the body. And so Elias kind of understood this, and he told everybody, even the National Cancer Institute, that it makes sense to work with your fellow institutes and centers. And so he initiated a program where the various directors of the institutes were to make a proposal as to what kinds of programs could be created where institutes would work together, and they would interact. And the neuroscience institutes had been doing this for a while, and we came up with a suggestion. We called it molecular libraries. I don't know how many of you are aware of the molecular library program, but it got a gold star for being creative and causing institutes to work together. And the idea was that drug development isn't siloed. Drug development really overlaps all these different institutes, because you find a drug while you're researching a problem in neurobiology doesn't mean that's the only place that drug is going to have any value. In fact, more times than not, it ends up these drugs have value all over the place. They may have cancer value, they may have value in treating cardiovascular disease as well as treating neurological and neuropsychiatric disease. And so this molecular libraries was a way of doing high volume, very fast screening of drugs in a variety of different model systems. And it was a high throughput system, and they designated about $1 billion to do this. And so people who worked in all various forms of creating new chemicals, screening chemicals, applying those chemicals, translating them into medicines, they all got engaged and they started to work together. And over the course of its existence, there was 300 new drug targets that were identified and are currently going through various stages of FDA development. But it was an illustration of how integration could work together to achieve a goal, a good that served everybody. And NIH has got a lot of these kinds of programs that are there. There's a small business program that monies are available. About 3% of the total budget of NIH is devoted, almost $1 billion every year. So this is commercial, entrepreneurial, working together with research at an institution such as the University of Utah, developing products that can then be translated and used in the commercial world. This really, really excites Congress. Congress loves this stuff where you can take government dollars and leverage them with commercial and private dollars and end up with a product, which is what we're all about here in the United States, the entrepreneurial part of us. There are cutting-edge programs where these are designed to take new ideas that don't do well in traditional NIH review study sections, and there's a lot of those, and creative things and translational things oftentimes don't do well in that environment. But these cutting-edge programs, that's what they're about. They fund programs that are new thoughts, new ways of doing things, bringing together varieties of different disciplines, not just the biological and the medical, but the behavioral, the fine arts, the computer sciences, and bringing them together in cutting-edge ways that move you forward. And so there's millions of dollars that are available in these kinds of things as well. So you just have to take a look, you have to read, you have to keep up on it. This is a very dynamic place, and they're throwing out new ideas all the time, and you want to find things that match you and your discipline and your area and your environment, and go for it. And there's a fairly high success rate in these, especially when they put out special requests for applications, RFAs. The success rate of these can be as high as 50%, which is quite different from traditional NIH grants. R01s, the success rate is in the single digits. It's usually less than 10%. But you got to keep your eyes open. You got to pay attention. You got to be ready to jump when those opportunities present themselves.